What if I told you that while everyone's arguing about Bitcoin prices, Wall Street just quietly connected the $80 trillion stock market to blockchain? Yeah, and that's not even the craziest part of what happened this month. All right, let's get into the 5 developments that are literally reshaping how money moves and why most people have absolutely no idea this is happening. So here's the thing about XRP that nobody talks about. It's a $128 billion asset that's basically been sitting in a cage. No smart contracts, no DeFi, nothing. Well, Flare Network just handed it the keys to escape. Okay, so Flare just launched something called FXRP, which is essentially XRP wrapped in smart contract capability. And get this, the initial 5 million mint cap filled in under 4 hours. They bumped it to 15 million. Same thing, gone immediately. We're now looking at over $86 million of XRP sitting on Flare doing actual DeFi work, right? So think about what this means. You've got NASDAQ listed Vivo Power committing 100 million in XRP to deploy through Flare. BitGo, the custody giant, just added support for FLR tokens. Oh, and there's a Flare ETF application sitting with the SEC right now from Tugrium. Now here's the institutional angle that matters. These big holders finally have somewhere to put their XRP to work. We're talking lending, borrowing, liquidity pools, the whole DeFi toolkit that was just impossible before. Now let's shift gears to something that honestly blew my mind when I dug into it. Chainlink just launched 24/5 US equities data streams. And yeah, I know that sounds technical, but stick with me because this is massive. So here's the problem they solved. Traditional stock feeds only work from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern, right? But crypto markets never sleep. So what happens when you want to trade tokenized Apple stock at 2 a.m.? You're using stale data. That's terrifying for risk management. Well, not anymore. Chainlink's new system delivers sub-second pricing data for major stocks and ETFs around the clock, 5 days a week. We're talking bid-ask spreads, volume data, market status flags, everything you need for real trading infrastructure. And here's what really matters. BitMEX is using this. Lighter Exchange, Apex, Orderly Network. These aren't small players. Oh, and Chainlink is actively working with Swift, Euroclear, and the DTCC on automating corporate actions like dividends and stock splits. You know, just casual conversations with the organizations that run global finance. All right, switching to Ethereum now because something weird is happening. Everyone said Layer 2s would make mainnet irrelevant, but the data is telling a completely different story. So Ethereum mainnet daily active addresses just briefly topped 1.3 million, outpacing Arbitrum, Base, and OP mainnet combined. That's not supposed to happen according to the Layer 2 narrative. The Fusaka upgrade in December dropped transaction fees to basically nothing. We're talking 16 cents average, with some transfers under a penny. So users are coming back to mainnet because why use a layer 2 when the base layer is cheap enough? Now here's the catch, and I gotta be honest about this. There's a dust attack problem inflating these numbers. Security researchers found about 2/3 of new addresses during peak activity were receiving tiny stablecoin transfers, address poisoning attacks. Real losses over $740,000 confirmed. But even accounting for that spam, the organic activity increase is real. Stablecoin transfers are dominating, and institutions care about that base layer security. Now, this one is going to make some people uncomfortable. But we need to talk about the Genius Act and what it means for stablecoin yields, because there's a massive unintended consequence brewing. So, the Genius Act, signed in July 2025, basically bans stablecoins from paying yield or interest to holders. The logic? They don't want a bank run scenario where everyone moves deposits into stablecoins for better rates. Makes sense on paper, right? Well, here's the problem nobody's talking about. Yield bearing stablecoins have grown from $9.5 billion to over $20 billion, with average yields around 5%. That capital isn't just going to disappear. And here come the synthetic dollars. Athena's USDE is the poster child. It generates yield through delta neutral strategies with crypto collateral and perpetual futures. Because it's not technically a payment stablecoin under the Genius Act, it's in regulatory gray area. The real risk? Andrei Grachev from Falcon Finance nailed it. Quote, "The real risk isn't synthetics themselves. It's unregulated synthetics operating without disclosure requirements. We could be pushing billions into offshore instruments with zero oversight." All right, let's bring this full circle with the big picture, because individual headlines don't capture the scale of what's happening with institutional adoption right now. Spot Bitcoin ETS, over 115 billion in assets under management. BlackRock's iBit alone, 75 billion. Fidelity's FBTC, over 20 billion. This is pension funds, family offices, asset managers, all in. JP Morgan, yeah, the JP Morgan, extended JPM coin to public blockchains in November. They're planning to accept Bitcoin and Ether as collateral. A consortium of U.S. banks, including PNC, Citi, and Wells Fargo, is exploring a joint stablecoin through Zell's parent company. The tokenized asset market almost quadrupled through 2025, nearly $20 billion. HSBC is tokenizing gold on their Orion platform. BlackRock is tokenizing funds. CoinDesk is projecting tokenized assets could hit 400 billion this year. And the Basel Committee? They just announced they're fast-tracking a reassessment of crypto exposure rules because the US and UK aren't adopting their strict standards. The regulatory tide is turning. So look, what we just covered isn't about picking the next moonshot. It's about understanding where the actual infrastructure is being built. Flare unlocking XRP DeFi, Chainlink connecting traditional markets to blockchain, Ethereum finding its role, regulators trying to keep up with stablecoins, and institutions going all in. These aren't isolated events. They're pieces of a much bigger puzzle. And the picture that's forming? It's a financial system that looks nothing like what we have today. That's the real alpha here. Not which token pumps next, but understanding the rails being laid right now. If this kind of institutional grade analysis is what you're looking for, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell. Drop a comment below. Which of these 5 developments do you think will have the biggest impact this year? Is it XRP DeFi, the Chainlink stock market connection, or something else entirely? Let's discuss. See you in the next one.